What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Ronan and I'll be your host. We got a lot to cover today because we're headed into part 5 of What If Ash and Paul Traveled to Unova. But before we get started, I'm going to need you to take a look at this analytical stat bar right here. You guys already know the drill. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications so that way you'll never miss an upload, and don't forget to drop a comment to feed the algorithm. But with all that being said, let's get into What If Ash and Paul Traveled to Unova, Season 2, Part 5. I hope you enjoy. We begin today's part as Iris and Paul are in mid-battle. Well, kinda anyway. You see, things are rather one-sided at the current moment. Paul's choice was a simple one, his water ground type Palpitoad, while Iris decided to pull out the big guns, trying with her Excadrill. There's only one problem. Excadrill remains locked inside of its bore mode, and it's unresponsive to its trainer. She's been pleading with it now for well over a minute, to which Paul doesn't understand why she would choose that thing. It doesn't listen to her, and she hasn't really done anything to try and work with it. So why risk it on a stage like this? Why not use something that could actually battle? But Iris doesn't hear him, as the referee is counting down for her to get her Pokemon to start battling or take the loss. It's at this moment that Iris begins to panic, as she doesn't want to take the loss, and Paul can see it across her face. While he's not really one to show pity in official battles, he does try to throw her a bone here, ordering his Palpitoad to fire a Hydro Pump at Excadrill. The Tongue Titan does so, firing its most powerful water blast at the mole, trying to arise any type of movement out of it. At first, it doesn't look like anything is happening. That is, until from the stream of water, Excadrill bursts in its drill form, performing a drill run, colliding with Palpitoad with as much force as it possibly can, driving it into the stadium wall. This single-handedly does two things. One, it prevents Iris from getting eliminated, as Excadrill has finally entered the battle, and two, it shows Paul just how strong this Excadrill actually is, as he's never really had a chance to really gauge any of its abilities because it's never really been used by Iris outside of the one battle that they had with the Scolipede. This has Paul getting a little bit antsy because he might actually get a great battle out of Iris. After all, it wasn't looking like that when this started. Paul then turns to Palpitoad, telling it to quit playing around. They have a battle to win. However, when he looks at his Toad, something in its eyes has changed. There's a level of determination that Paul has never seen there before. And then it happens. An evolutionary light bathes the stadium as Palpitoad takes on its final evolution into Seismitoad, causing Paul to smile while Iris gulps, because whatever chance she just had may have just been flushed away. As the newly evolved Toad emerges from the light, it stares down Excadrill, who, just like the Toad, doesn't seem to flinch. They both know what this is. This isn't just a Pokemon battle. It is to test the strength of the two, to see who the superior fighter really is. Knowing she's got to do something, Iris calls for a drill run from Excadrill, causing the mole to tunnel beneath the stadium, using its camouflage to the advantage so that way it can hide itself from Seismitoad. However, unfortunately for both Iris and Excadrill, Seismitoad has a new ability that Paul is all too familiar with, as it tells the Toad to just wait, feel it out. One of Seismitoad's natural abilities is to feel the vibration in the ground and the air around it, which means it's in a perfect position to counter Excadrill. And we see this when Excadrill surfaces right at the backside of Seismitoad, hoping to catch it off guard. However, before it was able to even break the dirt, Seismitoad was airbound, charging another Hydro Pump that blasts Excadrill back into the hole from whence it came. At this point, Iris is desperate. She calls for a Focus Blast to offset the pressure that is flooding the tunnel that Excadrill had just created. Unfortunately for her, it's no use. The mole cannot hear her command, as it slowly resurfaces with spirals in its eyes, essentially becoming a water weight, and Paul being declared the winner. This will move him to the final round, to where he knows who his opponent already is. The only thing he can do is look at the kid Cameron as he walks on the field and hope that this boy has what it takes to at least prevent some serious damage to his Pokemon. Cameron is then accompanied by Tripp as they are told to choose their combatants, and in one simultaneous throw, they both declare, "Samurai, superior, I choose you." Now we find ourselves with Paul and Iris in the locker room. They are joined by Dawn. Dawn is trying to console Iris, telling her that she did her best, but this is Paul we're talking about, so it wasn't going to be that easy to win. But Iris isn't upset by this. She understands why she lost, to which Paul doesn't really even have to say anything because she says it for him. She shouldn't have gone with Excadrill, and she fully realizes that it was a bad choice. But she really wants to make some progress with the Iron Digger. She doesn't understand it. They used to be so close. They used to battle together all the time. Without fail, it would obey her commands, and they would win and win and win. that is until that battle. But that flashback is enough to cause Iris to shut her mouth, because it's not a subject that she really wants to talk about right now. This causes Dawn to turn to Paul, who is staring at the monitor, displaying the match that is out in the main stadium. There, they can see what Paul and the rest of them had feared. Superior is coiled around Samurott, and while Samurott is doing its best to fight back with the Razor Shell, Superior's typing gives it the advantage with its leaf blade, pushes the shell back slower and slower, while Superior slowly tightens up on Samurott, coiling even harder and harder, until Samurott can no longer breathe or move, and the leaf blade connects, ending the battle. Wow, that was quicker than both yours and Iris's, Dawn compliments. However, Paul says nothing, as he just watches the screen, while the ref orders Superior to break its hold on Samurott, as the otter is now unconscious due to the lack of oxygen, but Superior has refused to break its grip. In this moment, Paul decides that he's using the best that he has, as both Electivire's Pokeball and the Black Orb resonate with each other with a slight vibration. Because the matches of the semifinals went so quick, the tournament officials have decided to take a brief interlude so that way the combatants can stretch their legs, get food, and plan their next strategies, as the finals will be a one-on-one. During this time, we find Iris outside while she's holding both Dragonite and Excadrill's ball. She doesn't know where she's going wrong. Claire did say for her to compete in the tournament in order for her to bond with Dragonite, but it doesn't seem like she's made any progress. And just like she was being summoned, Claire pops up, telling Iris, don't worry. It's natural to doubt people when they give you advice, especially when it's somebody you look up to, and the advice doesn't really seem like it was that good. Oh, Claire, I didn't say anything. I wasn't thinking, but Claire just smiles. It's okay, Iris. I understand. I was once a budding young trainer just like you. It's going to take a long time for you and your Dragonite to get on the same page. However, your Excadrill, why, that is a little bit more interesting. How so, Iris asks. Well, it doesn't look like it's a newer Pokemon that's just rebelling because it doesn't want to be caught like your Dragonite. It looks like a Pokemon that you've had for a long time. Let me guess, is there some wounded history between the two of you? Iris looks at Claire with tears in her eyes. It's like she's been holding back some emotions for the longest time. It's okay, you can tell me. I promise I won't judge you because of it. Now we flash over to Paul, who is just sitting alone in the locker room. He's not really doing anything. He's just staring at the floor. But this isn't a stare of worry or grief or anything like that. He's focused. This is the Paul we know all too well. A Paul that has a resolve, that understands solutions to problems, that plans ahead, that has tactics to handle people. And he intends to use this same type of battle strategy that he's done so many times in the past to put Tripp in his place, even if he and Electivire have to briefly cross that line in order to make him understand. Luckily for Paul, his moments in silence won't last much longer, as the crowd has begun funneling back into the stadium and the announcer has made his way back to the mic, telling the combatants that their battle is about to begin, so they need to make their way to the battle area and prepare for the final bout of the Pokemon Junior World Tournament. Standing, Paul irons his resolve as he heads out to the battlefield. In a mere moments, he stands across from the one trainer that he knew he was going to face this entire tournament, Tripp. Slow roars over the crowd can be heard as they build, which Tripp comments on, telling Paul that the last time they battled, they didn't have anything like this. But it certainly is going to be an exciting venue with Grandpa watching. Grandpa, what do you mean Grandpa? Paul asks. Oh, you didn't know? Grandpa Alder. He's always looked out for me, making sure that I didn't fall off of the path. You know, trying to keep me right. It's at this moment Paul has a harsh realization. His opponent for this tournament wasn't ever meant to be Tripp, because the winner of this match gets an illustrious prize that isn't awarded to many people. They get to battle one of the illustrious trainers that is one of the head judges. The winner can name any one of the four that they want to battle with. While this revelation of Alder being Tripp's grandfather is surprising, Paul doesn't let it shake his confidence, merely focusing on the battle, telling Tripp that he better stand by for battle, because Electivire will, as the Oni pops from its ball. I figured you might use that thing again, but not to worry. I'll just use the same Pokemon that I used to end that kid Cameron's reign in the tournament. As his starter, the one that Paul watched Tripp pick pops from its ball. Superior. The ref declares that this will be a one-on-one battle with no time limit. The battle will be over when one side is unable to continue. Now, begin! The battle begins with Tripp making the first move, calling for a light screen, as he knows that Electivire is an electric type, and most of them use specialized attacks. However, this is Paul, and he is prepared for all scenarios, as he orders the Oni to use one simple move, Brick Break. That shatters the screen of mental energy, connecting with Superior's head. Good move, Tripp says in a goading tone, However, Paul doesn't respond, merely ordering Electivire on its next assault with a wild charge. Ever the focused trainer, aren't you, Paul? Oh well, I guess I'll have to stop playing around too. Superior, use Leech Seed. The Serpent fires a bundle of speeds at Electivire that slowly powder the Oni in a scattered dust that, in an instant, begins to wrap all of its limbs in individual vines, even its torso, with the effects of the move slowly beginning to take its toll. So, you remembered that Electivire had Brick Break, and you lured it in with the light screen so you could hit me with the Leech Seed. Clever move, Paul says, but it won't be enough. Oh, that wasn't my only plan. We're just getting started. Superior, use Coil! The Serpent tightens its body into a spiral, increasing its attack, defense, and accuracy. However, Paul wasn't going to let this attempt go on, as he orders a second wild charge that finally connects, causing some resisted damage. Paul's beginning to see that Tripp has been planning for this battle a long time. He's been taking his time methodically planning out his path to victory, and so far he's set up a pretty good strategy. But there's one that Paul has that Tripp doesn't, as he pulls out the Black Stone of Zekrom. The stone pulsates with Electivire, as Paul declares, "You will not win this. Now, it's time!" The stone begins to emanate a brilliance of shining and electrified aura as it levitates over Electivire and begins to merge with it. For the first time in a public setting, the world gets to watch the fusion of Electivire with the legendary. Complete silence befalls the building as they witness the miracle taking place. This has captured the attention of everyone in attendance, including Alder. Then, in a very confident and sure voice, you can hear Paul tell Electivire, "It's time to end this. Use Fusion Bolt." Wait, Fusion Bolt? But that's... However, Alder is too late, as he sees the new form of Electivire emerge from the light, surging with electricity as it slams its entire body into that of Superior. Though the Serpent has a type resistance to this, it can't help but writhe in pain as the effects of the Electric-type legendary move run through the course of its body. Tripp is unsure on how to respond to this. He's frozen in fear. He's never seen aggression like this from a Pokemon outside of his own before. No, not even his Pokemon are capable of this. Then he looks across the field to Paul. His eyes are locked on Tripp. Then, suddenly, a shiver runs down the boy's spine. What is this? Fear? No, there's no way I'm afraid. I've beaten him before, and I'm the grandson of Alder. There's no such thing as fear in my vocabulary, but why can't I move? Why does Paul intimidate me so? However, his own thoughts are interrupted when Paul gives a final command. As the Oni is squeezing the Serpent in its arms, Paul orders for a Bolt Strike to end this. At this point, even before the Bolt Strike, it's obvious that this is overkill. The battle was won by Paul. This form, this fusion with the legendary, was too much even for Tripp's well-trained starter to handle. However, Paul, he's crossing a line. This gets the attention of Cynthia, Claire, Iris, and Dawn. They all watch on as Paul has consciously made this decision and watch Electivire light up the surrounding area to the point that no one can see the battlefield. However, this doesn't last long, as once the light fades, Superior lies smoldering on the battlefield with a look of horror plastered across Tripp's face. There's nothing but stunned silence. What just happened here? However, Paul is the one to break this. You know, if you're going to commit to a role, then commit to it 100%. You have to be willing to cross that line at any point. No matter the consequences, you can't let anything hold you back. And what I just saw right now was a little boy who's afraid to act on what needs to be done. Tripp says nothing as the referee finally comes to his senses. And even though that match terrified him, Paul is declared the winner. Paul recalls Electivire as the fusion dissipates, telling Tripp that he doesn't have a choice. You can't just tiptoe on either side of the line. You either cross it or you don't. Don't beat him around the bush, because he doesn't have time to waste with weaklings like him. Paul then walks off, leaving everyone in a stunned silence. That is, except for Alder. The old man knows that that was not just a message for Tripp. That was also a message for him. Well, things are about to get a whole lot more interesting, the champion thinks to himself. Now we follow up with Paul in the locker room, to where he is met with Iris and Dawn, both of them berating him. Why would you do something like that? You're no better than Tripp has been throughout the entire tournament. I thought you grew on past this, Paul. However, the young boy just sits silent, listening to the two girls chastise him. Well, don't you have anything to say for yourself? You guys just don't get it, do you? Tripp is exactly what I was becoming before I met Ash, and there was a couple of times that I almost crossed the line like he did today. I tiptoed on the path like he's been doing. He needed somebody that would set him straight. If it wasn't going to be me, then who was it? There was no one else here that could stand up to his Pokemon. No one else that could drive that message home. I had to cross that line one more time in order to show him that he should not ever consider doing it again. But using the Stone of Zekrom to do that, that was way too much, Iris says. I had to make that point. There will always be somebody stronger than him, and at the wrong time, he can make the wrong move that could cost him greatly. Believe me, it's not something that I wanted to do. However, both me and Electivire had resolved that it was something that needed to be done, and if Zekrom didn't agree with it, then we wouldn't have been able to take the transformation. Wait, Zekrom, what's that? Dawn asks. Oh, it's just a legendary Pokemon that Paul keeps in his back pocket for emergencies, Iris responds like it's no casual thing. But still, that doesn't give you a right to abuse its power. I wasn't abusing it, Iris. I was using it to set an example. Besides, Tripp wasn't the real enemy of this tournament. You didn't hear what he had said to me. Alder, that's his grandfather. That's why Tripp got away with all of the things that he did. Alder's been protecting him throughout the entire tournament. That explains why, when Tripp was evolved, Alder seemed to have changed his personality. Before, he had no skin in the game. His family wasn't involved. But now that his family, his grandson, has been going up against us, and he's running the risk of running into some trouble. Whose side do you think you would take? I get one prize for winning this tournament. The chance to battle one of the people that were left to judge the competition. And that choice is a very simple one. So, you're gonna battle him again, are you? Iris asks. I am. He needs to be sent a message. He can't abuse his position of power like he has been. And when it comes to his grandson, he shouldn't be teaching him that he can get away with anything. After all, he won't always be there to protect him. That was something I had to learn when me and Reggie stopped seeing eye to eye for a while. So wait, I'm confused, Dawn says. Are you not back to being the old Paul? I would say he kinda is, Iris responds. Just in the fact that he doesn't like the way things are being ran, so he's gonna do whatever he has to send a message, even if that means that he must cross a line or two. But it's not gonna be a permanent cross. He's just returning for a day pass, if you will. Unfortunately for the two, they don't really have much time to discuss this, as Paul's presence is requested back on the battlefield, as the closing ceremonies are about to take place. Standing up, Iris tells Paul good luck. If there's anybody that can actually beat Alder, then it would be him. Paul says nothing, simply walking down the shadowy corridor, ready for his next encounter. On the field, the crowd is showing mixed emotions. Some are excited, other ones are uncertain on what they've been seeing. This tournament has been more of a bloodbath than anything. One thing is clear, they still have one final phase of this tournament. The prize for the winner, who is undoubtedly Paul. He stands with the referee next to him, asking to name the challenge he aims to make. Paul's response is one that is simple and straight to the point. You, Alder, champion of Unova, you are my challenge. However, just as they thought Paul was done, he says something else. You're gonna have to learn that you can't protect family, no matter how close they are. You'll pay for interfering with the tournament, whether it was directly from you or not. This triggers Claire, Caitlin, and Cynthia to ask Alder what Paul is talking about. However, the old man claims he doesn't know. For whatever reason, it seems that Paul may have him mixed up with somebody else. But no matter, he will go battle the boy and set him straight. He then confidently walks off, as the three girls are not buying the answer they were just given. Moments later, Alder finds himself on the battlefield, standing across from Paul, his accuser. Well, kid, you seem to have quite the wild imagination. If I recall, I helped you in the past, didn't I? Stuff it, Paul says. I know what you've been up to. You've been protecting him. Tripp even admitted that you were his grandfather. Well, so what if I am? That doesn't mean anything. You have no proof to base your allegations on. Don't tell me that's the reason why you won this entire tournament. No, at first it was my concern about Tripp, but the moment I realized that he wasn't the one I had to worry about was the moment I knew I needed to battle you once more. Well, regardless of your reasons, I promise you that you won't be winning this battle, Alder says, as the referee calls for the start, and Paul makes the first move. M-Boy, stand by for battle. Well, that's quite the choice there. Let me guess, you assumed that I was going to use Bouffalant again. That's why you decided to go with your fighting type. Well, I got news for you, kid. You jumped the gun. Volcarona, go! This catches Paul by surprise. He's never even seen an event with Alder not using his Bouffalant, so he assumed it would be a safe bet, especially considering Electivire has battled twice today, and Seismitoad hasn't had the chance to recover from the battle with Iris and Excadrill. Oh well, a bug type, that shouldn't be too hard for a fire type, so he figures he'll just go big and one-shot it right now. Emboar, use Heat Crash! However, Alder doesn't waver and neither does his bug type, as they simply just take the fire type attack, much to Paul's surprise. This is when he finds out the whole truth, that Volcarona isn't only just a bug, it's also part fire type, so it has a perfect resistance against this Heat Crash, allowing Alder to set up his move, Toxic. Suddenly, Emboar is flooded with the poison dust as it is in direct contact with the bug type, and it is quickly taking effect as the Battle Pig breaks contact at Paul's command, coming back to its side of the field. What, you didn't like their together time? Well, I guess it was a little bit too much for you. But don't worry, this will be over soon, Alder says with a chuckle in his voice. He then responds in kind with a Hurricane. Now Paul understands why Volcarona was chosen, as he tries to mount some sort of defense, ordering an arm thrust to stave off the flying type attack. For the most part, this works. Unfortunately though, However, with each thrust of the arm, it causes the poison to circulate through Embor that much faster. Knowing he has to do something, Paul decides on a course of action that may or may not work in his favor, as Embor really isn't that familiar with this move yet. Use Scold! Just as the winds die down, boiling water spews from the pig's mouth, much to the shock of everyone including Alder, that douses the bug, causing some significant damage. I see, Alder thinks to himself, well, you had some sort of trump card just in case things didn't go exactly as you planned. I really like your style, kid. However, my business is my business, and I'm going to teach you not to meddle in any of my family business. Volcarona, use Quiver Dance! Shaking off the fluids from its wings, the moth begins to vibrantly dance around the battlefield, raising its abilities and dodging the next attack from Embor. At this point, things become obvious to Paul. Embor is breathing heavily, and it doesn't have much longer in this battle. However, with a final big push, Embor should be able to close this out. That's when he orders the fire type in with another heat crash. The battle pig readies itself as it throws its full weight at Volcarona. Unfortunately for them, Volcarona is able to dodge this move, and in a brilliant disperse of power, it uses Hurricane once more at Alder's command, sending the boar into the stadium wall. Embor, are you alright? Paul says. The pig pulls itself from the wall, nodding that it is, only for its final bit of strength to be sapped by the poison. That's it. The battle is called in Alder's favor. Well, that was fun. I have to say so myself. I look forward to seeing you in the competition at the Unova League. I'm sure that you'll be much stronger then, Alder says, followed by him simply turning and walking away. This moment is a harsh realization for Paul. He wasn't even close to Alder's level. He wasn't in the battle that he had with his Bouffalant, and he certainly wasn't in the battle that he had with this Volcarona. He's going to need to tighten up his training schedule if he hopes to have any chances at beating this man in the future. With the battle between Paul and Alder behind them, this brings the tournament to a close, with everybody getting the chance to see Paul crowned as the champion. While he does accept the position, he feels like it's a hollow victory. Tripp wasn't a competition, and the real person that he needed to battle was Alder, but he couldn't even hold a candle to him, literally. So he does what he does best. He accepts it in as respectful way as possible, bringing the tournament to an end. Later that night at the Pokemon Center, Iris and Paul are talking with Dawn. Are you sure Alder was doing all those things that you said he was? Dawn asks. Paul says he is, but Iris simply rebuttals that it doesn't seem like it. Why would the champion be trying to hide the fact that his grandson is participating in the tournament? It wouldn't make any sense. These are things I don't know, Paul says. However, I do know this. Something's up with Alder. He's not the person he pretends to be. Why do you say that? Iris asks. It's simple. When Alder looked at me before he walked away, Zekrom's orb resonated slightly. That tells me that there's something more here than meets the eye, and I'm sure we're going to find out sooner than later. This brings things to the next morning, as Dawn has to say goodbye to her new friends. She's actually heading over to Johto to compete in their grand festival, and this was just a stop before she headed over there. Though things got a little bit wild, she did have fun, and she tells Paul she was glad to see him again. Hopefully next time she'll get a chance to see Ash. She then tells Iris it was nice to meet her, as she boards the boat, bound for the Johto region. Well, now that all this is over, where's our next stop? Iris says. I had a thought about that, Paul says. According to some of the locals, there's a new gym that opened up to the north of here, in Humalau City, I do believe it's called. Well, why don't we get going, considering we still have to meet Ash in Opsalucid City. So, with the events in Undella Town now over, the two turn, heading deeper into Unova, with a new understanding that things behind the scenes aren't quite what they're supposed to be. However, it doesn't seem that the duo are going to be alone, as they have captured the attention of a very interested Pokemon. And now we fade to this city in the north, as a very familiar person, Giovanni, stands out on the shoreline, gazing into the ocean. I know you're out there, somewhere. And this is where we are going to leave things for now. So tell me, how did you feel about the Pokemon Junior World Tournament arc? How did you like Paul's Seismitoad evolving in the battle with Iris? Do you feel like Paul was right in the line that he crossed with Tripp to give him a taste of his own medicine, and then questioning his abilities as a trainer? And what is up with Alder? Something just doesn't seem right with him. And lastly, what is Giovanni looking for in Humalau City? Let me know in the comments down below. And that's all we have for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed the content that you saw today, and I really hope you come back for future episodes. I really hope you'll consider following me on some of my other platforms, maybe on Twitter, or joining my Discord if you like following behind the scenes things, or if you want to just get to know the community that I've slowly been able to build here the last couple of years on YouTube. Also, if you want to help support the channel a little bit more, considering joining my Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. I offer exclusive content on both of those platforms for the different tiers, and it's content that I'm sure you won't want to miss out, as it's going to be a long time before it comes to YouTube. But with all that being said, I really hope that you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.